The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Trying to rally their people to give money and to show up in this year's elections. We have no plans to impeach the president. We have no future plans. Listen, it's all a scam started by Democrats at the White House.
House Speaker John Boehner says impeachment is off the table, but his party moves forward with plans to sue President Obama. And we're back now with the panel. Kim, has the president overstepped his powers with all of these executive actions? Has he violated, in your opinion, the Constitution?
Yes, he absolutely has. And it comes down to ignoring laws. It comes down to making up laws. It also comes down to not enforcing laws that are on the books, like immigration laws. And this was Republicans' view that the only way forward was, in fact, a lawsuit, because they don't want to go down the impeachment road. And so this is a way that they can bring this to the fore. And I would point out, too, that this is necessary because we're in a new era of politics in this regard. Ron and I were just talking. He was saying, well, Bush did signing statements, which are sort of, he said, the same thing. But it's not the same in that what you've always had in the past is that when a president did something and took away Article I powers, you saw a bipartisan pushback from Congress, an outrage that he did so. I remember back when Bush, FBI raided an office of a congressman, and you had both the Republicans and the Democrats jointly condemn that action. So you have no, but we don't have that now. We have Democrats in Congress who are happy to allow the president to do all this, and as a result, Republicans have felt the lawsuit is the only way to get some focus on this.
All right, Ron, let me ask you the same direct question. Where are you on this? Is the president within his rights when he takes these executive actions, or has he crossed the line?
I don't know. I'm going to be a little humble here and say I'm not an attorney. I do know that actually the fact of the matter is Republicans were fine with President Bush doing signing statements and with President Bush doing more executive orders than President Obama. And I'll leave it where I left it with the last segment. The public wants these parties to be working together. We're going through the same thing with impeachment that we did in 2006, 2007, when the Democrats talked about impeaching President Bush and the Republicans cynically raised money off of that. We have the mirror image happening now, and there's no coincidence that the turnout we're having so far in the midterm elections are at record lows. The public is fed up with this business.
Michael, you heard, and we played the clip just now of Speaker Boehner basically saying that impeachment is off the table. The words he used are, I have no plans, I have no future plans. Is that true, or as someone who's in touch with the grassroots conservative movement around the country, is there some push for impeachment? That's one. And two, if, as we posited, and it seems fairly likely, the president takes some dramatic action to defer deportations for millions of more people, what happens then in terms of impeachment?
Well, I think the Speaker is largely right that the only people, or the people primarily talking about impeachment, are fundraisers at the DCCC. As Ron just said, it's the same thing that the RNC did 6-8 years ago when Democrats were talking about impeaching President Bush. Look, the trouble with a lawless president is that it's very difficult to constrain him because he doesn't care about the law. You have a president right now who is totally out of control, totally
He's a lawless president? Is that really a phrase you want to leave? He's a lawless president?
He can't get a carbon tax through the Congress, so he decides
to... ask the question, go ahead.
He can't get a carbon tax through the Congress, so he decides to pose it through the EPA. Obamacare is falling apart. It's totally unworkable, so he decides to unilaterally change the law. The IRS is totally out of control, targeting conservatives, using all sorts of expletives to describing conservatives. This is a president that is totally out of control, and trying to find a mechanism to constrain him is difficult. So I think.
But isn't in fact one of the reasons that the House Republicans are pushing this lawsuit is because they're trying to have a pressure valve against the fact that a lot of grassroots folks that I'm sure you're in touch with really want to go for impeachment?
No, I think that they are trying to find a way to constrain a lawless president. And so I think that when you look at what Jim Jordan is doing with the investigation into the IRS, which is fantastic, that is one mechanism that they have. The power of the purse is one mechanism that they've had, that they've tried to use. They're filing a lawsuit because the President of the United States is unilaterally changing the law, I think 40 different times with regards to Obamacare. This is a lawless administration, and trying to find a tool within the rule of law to constrain it is a frustrating challenge.
Why?
Well, I think, you listen to Michael and you understand why there are lots of Republicans who think this man's a demon. This guy's awful. We got to get this guy out of here any way we can. He's breaking the law. I don't agree with a lot of the points that you were making, Michael, but I hear this on talk radio. I hear this in conservative columns that people are saying, we think this guy's way over the line. And then they say, oh, yeah, we got to find a way to get him. Then you hear from Sarah Palin, Michelle Bachmann, and others. Yes, we use the impeachment word, and then you come on and say, oh no, we're not talking about impeachment. That's the Democrats. All the Democrats are doing is taking advantage of the fact that you guys have demonized President Obama to this extent, because it's not only does it help them with fundraising, lots of people, especially in the minority community, see it as an attack on the first black president, think it's unfair, and so it's going to spur their turnout in midterms, which is going to be critical in several races.
And I want to wait a second. I want to pick up on exactly that point. Do you think that the Republican opposition to this president, you heard Hakeem Jeffries talk about hatred, is racial, or do you think it's based on principles and policies?
Well, all I can do is look at the numbers. If you look at the core constituency, the people who are in, let's say, Tea Party opposition, support of impeachment, there's no diversity. It's a white, older group of people. As to whether or not it's racial, you know, look, if President Obama and others have said, there's some people who don't like him because of his race, some people who do like him. But I would say, if you just break it down as a matter of political analysis and say, who is this group? It reminds me that the Republican Party has become almost a completely white party.
Chris, if you were to open up your dictionary to the word irony, you would find Juan Williams sitting there claiming that I am demonizing people because I'm saying that the President of the United States is lawless, which, by the way, the Supreme Court agreed with. If I
No. The Supreme Court
not being willing to condemn.
that he's
You think
lawless.
that there's any racial elements to the impeachment? I think that is a ridiculous, ironic statement. You're the one demonizing people who are concerned about the fact that we have a crisis of the Constitution. With Jonathan Turley, a liberal law professor, just testified in the last couple of weeks, you're the one demonizing. You're demonizing good people who are concerned about a president who is completely
we can have a
out
principled
of control.
argument about President Obama's actions and the use of executive actions and authority. But you called him lawless, as if he's an outlaw, as if, you know, you have him riding the range. We got to go get that guy.
I think when 9-0 on the Supreme Court,
the core constituency, the people who want him impeached, they're all white and they're all older, and guess what? They're all in the far right wing of the Republican Party.
And he might as well have just said, and they're all racist. That's ridiculous.
look, I think, too, what this underestimates is the amount of consideration that actually went into this lawsuit that has been brought against the president. I mean, the Republicans did sit down and had a discussion with a lot of legal scholars about, you know, has what the president done risen to the level of high crimes and misdemeanors? And, you know, you saw Paul Ryan come out this week and say, of course it does not. But there have nonetheless been grave violations of the Constitution and the law, and that this is a way to go forward. And they've put together a lawsuit that's very narrowly tailored and done
we have about 30 seconds left. And the thing that strikes me about this, it was almost exactly 10 years ago that Barack Obama made that speech at the Democratic National Convention and said, we don't have a red America, we don't have a blue America, we have a United States. We are a long way from there now, aren't we, Ron?
Yeah, and this discussion illustrates it. I know you guys don't mean this, but the way the Americans are hearing this conversation, they hear you saying that our president is a criminal, and they hear you saying that Republicans are racist. And what they want, I know it's not what you're saying, but that's what they're hearing. What they want is solutions.
I agree with Jonathan Turley at the very careful balance that our Constitution sets
You
up.
can file a footnote on this. Thank you, panel. See you next Sunday.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.